The mysterious phone call. A normal night David was an ordinary guy. He lived alone in a cozy apartment in the city, worked a 9-to-5 job, and spent his evenings watching movies or playing video games. Life was simple, and he liked it that way. One Friday night, he decided to order pizza and watch a horror movie. It had been a long week at work, and he wanted to unwind. The aroma of pepperoni filled his apartment as he settled onto the couch, the glow of the television flickering in the dimly lit room. Halfway through the movie, his phone rang. He glanced at the screen. Unknown number. David hesitated. He usually ignored calls from unknown numbers, but something about this one made him curious. Maybe it was a wrong number. Maybe it was a telemarketer. Or maybe, just maybe, it was something else. He answered. Hello? There was silence on the other end. Then a voice that sounded exactly like his own. David, don't go out tonight. You're in danger. David's heart stopped. His grip tightened around the phone. Who is this? He demanded. No answer, just breathing. And then the call ended. The fear settles. In a chill ran down David's spine. He checked the number, but there was no trace of it in his call history. He tried calling back, but the number was invalid. Maybe it was a prank. Maybe someone was messing with him. He shook his head, trying to laugh it off. Yeah, sure, like something out of a horror movie. Still, unease settled in his chest. He got up to check the locks on his doors and windows. Everything was secure. Just paranoia, he told himself. He returned to the couch, picked up his pizza, and tried to focus on the movie. But no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching him. Then came another call. Unknown number. This time, he hesitated before answering, but curiosity won over. Hello. The same voice, his own voice, spoke again. I told you not to go out, David. But now, it's already too late. Click. The call ended. The stranger outside David shot up from the couch, his pulse racing. He ran to the window and peeked outside. The street was quiet. A few cars parked along the curb, the streetlights casting long shadows. Then he saw it. A tall figure stood at the end of the street, facing his building. It was too dark to make out the features, but David could tell that whoever it was, they were staring right at his apartment. His stomach twisted. This isn't real. This is just a coincidence. He turned off the lights in his apartment, making it harder for anyone outside to see him. He tried to calm his breathing, but it was no use. His mind raced with questions. Was this person the one calling him? How did they get his voice? What did they mean by, it's already too late? Then, a knock at his door. David nearly jumped out of his skin. Slow, deliberate. Knock, knock, knock. He tiptoed toward the door and looked through the peephole. Nothing, just an empty hallway. His entire body screamed at him not to open the door, but he needed to know. He slowly turned the lock, his hands shaking, and cracked the door open just enough to peek outside. The hallway was deserted. But then his phone rang again. Unknown number. He backed away from the door and answered, his voice barely a whisper. Hello, why did you open the door, David? David's breath hitched. He spun around, his back against the wall. His apartment suddenly felt much smaller, much darker. The voice on the phone continued, eerily calm. Now you've invited it in. The presence in the apartment. David's eyes darted around the room. He was alone. Wasn't he? Then, the soft sound of a footstep. It came from behind him. Slowly he turned. There, standing in the dim light of his living room, was a figure. At first it was just a shadow, but as his eyes adjusted, he saw more. It looked exactly like him. Same height, same building, same face, but its eyes were hollow, black voids, and its mouth was twisted into a sinister grin. David couldn't move, couldn't breathe. The thing tilted its head, watching him. Then, in the same voice from the phone, it spoke. You shouldn't have answered. The chase David bolted for the door. His hands fumbled with the lock, his heart hammering in his chest. He could hear footsteps behind him, closing in fast. The door flew open and he sprinted down the hallway, his only thought. Get out. Get out now. He reached the stairwell, practically throwing himself down the steps. His legs burned, but he didn't stop. He could hear it following him, those same slow, deliberate footsteps. When he reached the lobby, the security guard looked up, startled. "Sir, are you okay?" David gasped for breath. Someone is in my apartment. He looks like me." The guard frowned. "Sir, you just came down from your apartment." David's blood ran cold. The guard pointed toward the glass doors leading outside. David turned and saw himself standing there, not a reflection, not a hallucination, a perfect copy. The end game. The each other David smiled and lifted a hand, wiggling his fingers in a slow wave. David stumbled backward. No, this isn't happening." The security guard stood up. "Sir, are you feeling okay? Do you need me to call someone?" David grabbed the guard's arm. "Do you see him? Tell me you see him." The guard looked toward the door, then back at David, confused. "Sir, there's no one there." David's breath hitched. He turned back. The thing was gone. But then, his phone buzzed. One last call, hands trembling, he lifted the phone to his ear. The voice on the other end was barely a whisper. "It's already inside." David turned just in time to see the dark figure lunging toward him. Click. The call ended, and so did David. Epilogue. The next morning, everything seemed normal. The security guard at the apartment building greeted a resident as he passed through the lobby. "Good morning, Mr. David. Late night?" The man turned and smiled. It was David, or at least it looked like him. And deep inside those familiar eyes, something else watched, something ancient and hungry. Because the real David was gone.